Everyone, it's Miss Olson, and I am going to show you today how to paint the rest of your candy still life. So mine is looking very similar to this, but a couple things you might want to note is that my Jolly Rancher is not dark enough, and that contrast is really important. That's part of why I chose that color, right? My Fun Dip is looking super light, so I need to brighten up some of those colors. And then don't forget you have oil pastels to find tints and shades. The darker values that I can find are kind of like right here where that Fun Dip's getting really dark. Just that little pop of darkness is going to do a lot. And then in the background, remember you can treat it like an advertisement where there's just one big bright color or contrasting color, I could say. I'm not going to use green or yellow, right? Because that would blend in. I could use black. I could use a dark blue, anything that's very different, red. But I think I'm going to go realistic with my background. So I'm going to do a table line right here to show that my candies are on the table so I can add some contrast underneath of it. I added a table line right there. And then I'm also going to do a wall color, which could be one of those other colors I mentioned. Just any color in the background that's very different. So first of all, I'm going to be using my small brush today, mostly with highly saturated colors to deepen the colors I already started. So already with my small brush, wiggled into that watercolor. And remember to leave the watercolors in a color wheel. This one was not treated so nice, so we need to leave the watercolors on the tray while we're working and leave them set up in a wheel. Rinse your brush between colors. So I'm just darkening this color to create that contrast for my Jolly Rancher. There we go. I can also use my oil pastel before I start painting or when it's dry next time to find the tints and shades because the wrapper has some white spots on it that I did not add yet. And those white spots, the shiny parts, are going to really help. So that is already looking better. And then I'm going to use some of my green with the edge of this Fun Dip to just create some of that, again, contrast. Contrast is our word of the day. So I'm doing that contrast. And remember that I also said that I was going to, especially around the edges of things, so edging it up is going to really help. So I could get, for example, a little bit of red, just brighten up this edge of this wrapper because that's an area where it gets darker. And those edges where it gets darker, I'm going to use a red for the Laffy Taffy because black could dim out your colors too. So if you can find like a dark blue to use or a red, it's going to help you even more. So find those areas of darker contrast. And then I said I was also going to find that bluish dark area on the Fun Dip. And that's going to go a long way. So I'm going to find that deep dark blue area over here. Got a little different color than I wanted. And again, it might not be something that you think is going to do a lot, but it really does because it helps define your edges while tricking the eye into making it look more 3D. So darkening up the edges where things are touching is really helpful because it's going to be shadowed there. For my table, I'm going to start with a yellow because I'm going to do this wooden color that we see on the table here. I'm going to start with a yellow to get that table started. A medium fluffy brush or small. This is almost too dark of yellow, but it's okay. I'm going to mix some brown in. I'm going to mix a little bit of brown in to get that color to look like this table color, which would be like a light brown. And then I'm going to also use my brown to do these texture lines of the table, this wooden area. So it's already starting to look like a wooden table. Again, you have options for that. I'm going to add more detail to that in a second. And then I need to choose a wall color. Black could be cool, or like a deep red, because red is opposite of green. So it's going to create that contrasting pop. So I'm going to go with a little red up here in the corner, but I don't want it to be bright red. I want it to be like a deep maroon almost, because I said black and red were two of my options. When you're doing your background, you want a color that you haven't really used yet, or a color that is very high contrast so that there's a lot of variation in the artwork. So I like that my artwork's bright and my background's dark for contrast. I'm adding a dark shadow underneath of the candy at the very bottom because it should be getting darker down there. And all of that contrast really made everything pop. This edge is kind of getting really watery, so I'm going to fix that. And then I also need to mix in a little bit more brown to my table. But once this dries, I can add more detail. Right now, I'm also going to think about adding some brightness to this yellow wrapper that I started last time. All right, I hope you have a great art class. I'm going to add a little bit more later, but this is a good start for now. Have a great art class. Look at the details up close of your wrappers, including if your work has dots like this Fun Dip does. You can paint those on now on your second layer. Once it's dry, you can add more details. All right, have a wonderful art class, and I will see you next time.